Welcome to another Lonely Island Seth Meyers podcast.
Are you guys ready? Hey, everybody, welcome back to the... You have something to say, Andy? Because I'd love to get this clean intro.
I was just saying I'm recording because you asked if we were ready.
Recording as well.
Welcome, everybody, to the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast. Once again, Jorma is in Finland. You know, during Q&A at my show, my late night show the other day, somebody asked, when is Jorma going to be back from Finland? Because I missed him on the pod.
Oh, that's nice.
That was nice. But also in the news, Andy is here once again because of SNL. As a fan, maybe. I'm not saying he's going to be on the show, although by the time you hear this, you'll know. But Andy and I had dinner last night with Mike Shoemaker and Maya Rudolph, and A+, right?
It was a good time.
Another winter dinner?
Yeah.
It was another winter dinner, and the only thing that was sort of, I don't know, bagging on the vibe a little bit was Keeve was sending some very upsetting texts.
They were upsetting. What were they?
Well, Keeve, tell everybody what your current issue is that's limiting you from having cool dinners.
Well, I'm in LA, but I also have COVID. I know that's what you're getting at. And everyone... It's the second time that we've had a COVID situation for me on this pod. Last time we didn't do a pod while I had COVID, but there was discussion of me showing up after having had it before on some early pods.
Yeah.
So it's a bummer.
I feel like you held out for a long time and now you just get it constantly.
Yeah, that's right. This is my third time having it. I was late to ever have it, and then I'm really making up for lost time.
Now it's just like rolling COVID. But you were sending a lot of like sweaty COVID pics to Andy saying, you want me to join?
That is true.
Some version of that, right?
Yeah, I was getting a little loopy on the couch. I've been alone upstairs for a lot of days in a row. Apologies to listeners, too, if I sound disgusting during this.
You sound great.
Hey, thanks.
You know, COVID, probably have a lot of time. I'm assuming you've used that time to watch my new HBO special because Andy's seen it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, and to critique it, honestly, it's got a lot of problems with it.
Oh, no. You'll get there. You'll get there. Anyway.
Does that count as a plug enough? It's on HBO, guys, for anybody just tuning in. Do you think anybody jumps right into this one? Maybe if they just find the pod, do people, they hear about a pod, do they jump to the most recent and just hit play? Or do they go back?
I don't know. We did get a nice shout out. You sent it out, The Cut. There was an interview with the person online who, her Twitter handle is Bald and Dowd. She had a nice thing to say. So thank you very much for the nice shout out of the pod. But I would hope that if anybody listens to this pod, they would go back to the beginning, especially since the first pod we did 8 years ago.
That's right.
That's how many.
She also gave a nice documentary now shout out.
Yeah.
Seth, have I talked about your special on the pod yet?
No.
It's so funny.
Thank you, buddy.
I mean, obviously, this seems just like buds stroking each other off, but I've told you so much in person. I loved it. But man, I was laughing. Giggling and laughing. It's a good time. You're very good at stand-up. I'm very proud of you.
You said that last night at dinner, and it was very important to hear that from you, and thank you.
Quiche Lorraine.
I've been waiting to watch it with Liz. And
I would hope you would want to watch it with Liz. That makes me happy. And I don't want you watching it with her now because you got the COVID.
She's not worried about it. She had it recently. But listen, the point is I haven't watched it yet because it's very hard for us to find times to watch anything. But we haven't watched anything else either.
Yes.
So
I believe that.
Did you watch the World Series?
Yeah, but I could just throw that on in the background.
Yeah, you can't focus on that.
It's different.
And who'd you root for, you fucking sellout?
Listen, I'm a man without a country now that the A's have left the Bay.
How do you guys feel about your beloved Oakland A's uprooting?
So sad.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
So sad. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Keeve and I and Jorm, of course, are big A's heads. We made an entire Netflix special about the Bash Brothers. So it was pretty brutal.
I will say, if the Bash Brothers special on Netflix couldn't keep the A's in Oakland, nothing could. You know who name dropped the Bash Brothers recently on my show?
Who?
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Oh, bless his heart.
What a nice guy.
Because he was talking about how he was doing Brooklyn with you.
That's right.
The 9-9.
Yes.
And he asked you what you were up to, and you said the Bash Brothers.
That's
and
right.
he just released this concept album.
Yes.
Based off the movie The Warriors.
Yes.
And he said they were kind of parallel ideas, which is it was hyper specificity based on a thing you loved for no audience whatsoever.
Yes, and we played each other like demos we were working on at the time on set. And that was years ago, obviously, but it was very fun.
And it's also very fun to have somebody like, I don't know, I think it's very cool, Lin-Manuel, who obviously made one of the great successes of both art and commerce with Hamilton. also appreciating that he has this, monster to feed that's just art. He's not
That's right.
Yeah.
By the way, because I had been clued into that he was doing Warriors a couple months ago, he was like, hey, I'm going to do like a listening party in LA and we're going to play it for the director of the original Warriors movie. You should come. And I was like, oh, awesome. And I like rolled down there in my sweats and got in there and it was just like, hey, Nas and RZA? And I was just like, what? Oh, no. And they were just like, hey. Everyone very nice. And obviously the Warriors thing is super cool and trippy. And
it's a great listen.
Yeah, it's
Highly
a love letter to New York, as it always is with Lin. And it's just fun. And it goes so many places you're not expecting and spans like 15 genres. And dude doesn't fuck around.
Hey, so let's get into it. I was delighted to go back and visit everything about this episode with Jonah Hill. This is the first time Jonah hosted. Jonah would go on to host a great many times more. Jonah would join the 5-Timers Club. But this first time was really very special. It was a great show.
Truly. And it was apparent immediately. I mean, we already knew Jonah and we're friendly, but there's certain hosts that come in from our perspective where you're like, oh, they're going to pick all the stuff I like.
Yes.
Which is to say the weird, like, you are really into comedy stuff.
He was only 25 years old, or maybe 24, 25. That's crazy.
It is crazy. And also, he's just so very good.
Yeah. He's funny.
He's also, we'll get to the short, but even in the live stuff, he has that subtlety that works on film that sometimes doesn't work live.
Mm-hmm.
He manages to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There is a game show sketch called, I think, What's Your Situation? Where he's the host and it's 3 female guests. And basically he asks a trivia question and then the follow-up is always, so like, what's your situation?
Contestants, for 50 points, what measure of energy comes from the Latin word meaning heat? Bethany Graham from White Plains.
That would be the calorie.
Very good, Bethany. You are on the board. And let's follow up this question with another one just for you. Bethany, what's your situation?
I'm sorry, what?
What's your situation? Are you single? Are you seeing somebody? Or...
Oh, I'm single at the moment.
It's good to know. It's good to know. Cool. No, it's good to know.
It's a really hard shift that he does exceptionally well, and I think was unique to him. A couple other things about this episode before we get to the short. I do remember Bill in the final hours before the show learn an Elliot Spitzer impression for the cold open. And I often remember him sort of talking about that was sort of a good example of how stressful the show was for him.
But also did a great job.
Great job.
Now that I've resigned as governor, I intend to bring that same passion and intensity to my new career as an attorney in private practice, specializing in lurid, embarrassing sex cases.
The thing that's really hard to do and is always very cool when somebody pulls it off is a recurring character for a host. And Jonas showed up and brought a character called Adam Grossman, who was a 6-year-old at Benihana.
Mm-hmm.
Bill was his dad. Fantastic sketch. And it was an idea that Jonah had. And I was lucky enough to sit in a room with him and Bill. I think he and Bill had talked about it before Jonah had showed up. And they had all these really funny beats. And it's just a great sketch. And I remember Fred plays the Benihana chef named Su Shin. And I went back and watched it. And there's a line that really makes me laugh where he's basically a roast comic. And he's just roasting his dad, who's Bill, as a divorced dad. And at one point he goes, Sushin, I'm joking, Sushin, arigato and mazel tov. And it's just delightful.
So I sent him questions about all these sketches, right?
Yep.
So he sent in a voice note where he goes over all of them.
Okay, great.
Mamima. Mamima Schaffer.
Uh-huh.
Andy. Yorma. Seth. It's Jonah. So one of the things I wanted to chat with you guys about was about the episode and stuff, but I also wanted to let you know that it's, I don't know, you guys have maybe, Seth's probably heard of it. So Dave Chappelle had a show on before all this recent stand-up stuff on Comedy Central. And
Oh, no.
it's insane, dude. It's called Dave Chappelle Show. And it's basically, different sketches, like an SNL kind of thing.
Can we stop it for a second?
Yeah, you want to explain our inside joke here?
Jonah's going straight to the well of an inside joke that he's had that is now running 15 years?
Yeah, when was the height of Chappelle Show, Seth? What year was that? 2005?
Oh, 4 or 5, yeah.
It was when we were recording one of our albums. He came and hung out with us in LA, and he kept doing this exact bit where he was telling us about this new show called Chappelle Show, and it was already just a smash hit.
It was at the height of I'm Rick James bit.
And we were like, yeah, no, we know about it. He's like, dude, it's so funny. It's got like sketches and skits. And he does some of it live and some of it goes into pre-taped stuff. And we're like, yeah, we know about Chappelle's Show, dude.
He'd wait till you were deep into a hangout or a conversation so that you'd be off guard and just kind of go like, oh, wait, have you guys seen this thing? It's so funny. Like I was watching late night TV, whatever it would be, find a new way into it. But now it's even weirder because we only talk to him like once a year when something like someone puts out something, you go, dude, I saw your thing. And then he immediately goes to it. It went from being like maybe 3% of our conversations to 97%.
That's right.
It's a very funny bit, and I'm glad he is still leaning into it. Because, of course, with each passing year, it becomes a better bit.
Yes.
All right, well, let's keep going and see how much longer he talks about it.
And then he'll help. So one of the things he did was he would have friends tell stories about famous people he had encounters, they had encounters with, and then he would kind of reenact them. Fuck, dude. If you guys have a minute, check it out. And Andy's dad, well, that was the first time I hosted SNL, and I was friends with you guys, and I was friends with Bill because of Superbad. And I knew Wig a little bit. I don't know how well I knew Seth. I really liked Seth. I worked with a ton because I think he was head writer at the time. And it was so exciting and so fun. And Seth wrote my whole monologue. I did not have anything to do with my monologue. It was all about being fancy, I think. He can talk to you about that.
I'm going to pause right there. Seth, do you remember the monologue?
I do. It was a song called I'm Fancy. And it was just about how he was a fancy fella. And I think one of the reasons I had the idea is he had a tattoo on his finger. Do you remember the tattoo he had on his finger?
Oh, yeah. It was a little mustache.
A little fancy mustache.
It was a little mustache. So he would hold his finger up to his lip and it looked like a mustache. And it was some version of I'm fancy. Oh, so fancy.
I'm fancy, so very fancy. From my top hat right down to my underpantsies. And I've got style. Oh, so much style. I got style to make the Queen of England smile. And I've got class. Yeah, so much class. I got so much class that it's coming out my butt. Well, my idea of fun is to strap on a cummerbund. So tally-ho, and now you know I'm very fancy.
But it was a fun song and dance monologue. And I know that sometimes there's a little bit of a knock on them. But it also seemed very not what people would expect from Jonah.
Yes.
And that made it delightful. And there were backup dancers. Andy, what do you think the chances are you were one of the backup dancers?
I'd say 50-50 at least.
I mean, it's wonderful to me that you have no idea. You have no memory of it, clearly.
Again, most of the stuff I did live is a blur.
Sure.
Would you say you were blacked out like Asa did last week?
I would not.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought a very fun monologue, and that was very sweet that Jonah remembered.
We've talked about this with other young hosts, and we were young at the time too, where it was always just such a good feeling. I think we talked about it with like Natalie when it was like, oh my God, one of us is now the boss, is the host.
Yes.
And it would always be just a different level of excitement that it felt like, would you say we worked in like a nut house and like the inmates were running the asylum? Is that a fair thing to say you would say, Seth?
Yeah, I mean, that
does sound like something you'd say, Seth.
It is a go-to, I think, when I'm trying to paint a picture of a situation. You know, and it's not that it wasn't true of Natalie, but I think it was super true of Jonah, because Jonah came from a world where so much conversation was about comedy. There was a boldness to the way he sort of stood up for things that was very impressive for someone his age.
Yeah. Because he was genuinely also just the right age to be an actual fan of the show and know what he liked on the show and what he didn't, and et cetera.
Yeah.
Seth, you kind of casually mentioned that there sometimes are knocks against musical monologues.
Yes.
I feel like that is such a in the eye of the beholder kind of a thing, though, because so many people I know are like, oh my God, I love that, you know?
Yes.
And I think for us, it's very much depends who it is.
Well, it's who it is. It's how it's executed, right?
Mm-hmm. If it's someone who I'm like, they just want to show that they can sing, that to me, I'm less interested in. But I also acknowledge that a lot of the world is interested in that.
Yes.
But for me, it's what you're getting at, which is Jonah is not known to have a strong singing voice, nor was he in the market to let everyone know he had a strong singing voice. So all of a sudden, I'm like, well, this is going to just be a goof.
Yes.
Which I get excited about.
Also, he's famously sort of not fancy, which was also...
By the way, he did have a good singing voice.
He was great.
Which was a nice little surprise on top of it.
And another thing that I think there knocks on is game show sketches, which again, his was really funny because it was different and new. And so I think that's one. It's a shame to paint with a big brush there.
I feel like you keep bringing this up, that people knock game show sketches, but I have never heard of anyone knocking game show sketches. Where are you getting that intel?
I'll venture to say that I think maybe people who recap SNL.
Oh.
And I think that they are fans. Mm-hmm. So I'm not being critical, but I think sometimes they will make the point that the show is falling back on a game show sketch. Whereas I feel like because SNL is live, sometimes it looks the best when you mimic another type of show that's live. And so that's why game shows and new shows, I think that's why they look better as sketches. Whereas, pre-tapes can cover things that, look more cinematic, but it's hard to do that in the live format. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I've made my point.
Yeah, I dig it. I mean, to me, that's an interesting thing to talk about. So that's why I asked.
Thank you. I'm glad you did.
Just to tie up the monologue here, we got sent a photo. It's Keenan, Forte, you, Andy, and Sudeikis, all in nice little tuxedos with the tails, the canes, and the whole deal. I'm sure we can put that picture in the show notes.
I'm looking at it, and my hair indeed looks like, as Seth said, it is eating my head.
I think the top hat they probably had to staple on.
This is fascinating. I mean, Jonah looks decidedly not fancy. Keenan, Forte, and Suds look quite done up and fancy, and I'm back there just ruining the illusion.
But again, this is why it was a dream era for the show. We had no other options.
They could have put me in a wig.
The show was all starters, no bench. And so everybody played every down, and it was super fucking fun.
Can I say something? I guarantee you hair was like, let's put you in a wig so you can have neat, tidy, fancy hair. And I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. And then trotted out looking like I was a little kid dressing up in my dad's clothes.
Support for the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast comes from Airbnb. Some trips are better when you're in an Airbnb, like when you're traveling with a group of friends, when you're looking for an authentic or local experience. Now, I'm sitting here now across the room, my assistant Danny. We're at the edit here again at Naked Gun, same thing. Sometimes you don't want to be in the touristy area. You want to go somewhere and have an experience where you're with the real people. Is that right, Danny? Just shout from across the room.
Yeah, it's dead right.
Have you ever stayed in an Airbnb?
Every single night.
You stay in one every night?
Yeah.
Because you don't really live here.
Yeah, and the rates are that good.
You're being sarcastic. Once again, that's my role. I wanted authenticity from anyone else. You have space for the family and a yard for your puppy. Right, you can even bring a puppy. A lot of hotels won't let you do that, and you got some space. And you know what? Your kid's bedtime doesn't need to be your bedtime. You have space to put that kid in the crib, maybe put on the baby monitor, shut a door, and then you can go, binge watch your favorite Looney Tunes or whatever you're into. Support comes from Shopify. So from what I understand, here's what Shopify does. Basically, you have some sort of a business. You're going to be selling that stuff online. Let's say you're selling shirts and stuff. And you have a great product. You have a cool brand. You have brilliant marketing. But the overlooked secret is actually that business behind the business makes selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. I know I've went to buy something and I've seen the little Shopify logo at the end and I've been like, what the heck is that? And that's what it is. It's home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not so secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%. Now, if you're a business person, you know what that means. So I don't have to explain it to you. I know what it means. Danny, do you know what it means?
No, I'm lost.
It says here that it means way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So I think it's converting window shoppers to actual customers. If you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Aviator Nation uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Lonely Island, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/lowercase Lonely Island to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/Lonely Island. All right, I'm hitting play.
Seth me and Hader wrote the Benihana Kid. And the Benihana Kid was from dinner. We all had dinner. I don't know if Seth was there or not, but I know Andy was there and I know Bill was there. And Bill was telling us a story about a Benihana he went to, and he saw a kid in like a Tony Soprano tracksuit that he couldn't tell if he was like 6 or like 46. And he had like a gold chain and a tracksuit, and he just couldn't tell if he was a kid or an adult. And when the chef did the shrimp in like the hat trick or whatever, the kid clapped just using his hand, leaned back and one hand clapping against the table. And then we all started doing this kid as like a kind of Tony Soprano kid at a Benihana who was 6. And then it morphed from like a Tony Soprano kind of guy to like a Catskills comedian, kind of reminded me of my grandpa vibe, just loud Catskills comedian. And Seth, Bill, and I wrote that, and it was so fun, and we were laughing, and I remember it kind of killed right away, and that was really, really fun. And then I ended up doing it, I think 5 times. I think all 5 times I've hosted with different Benihana chefs through the years. But I think Fred was the OG, but that was so fun, and Bill played my dad, and it was just so epic.
All right, so that was Jonah talking about that, but I think Yorma joining us, and we'll get back to Jonah in one sec. What's up, Yorma? And he has a special guest with him.
What up?
What's up, Tim?
Oh my God, it's fucking Olyphant?
Yeah.
Jesus. You guys in an igloo?
Just for the listener at home, they look so cold. They are red-faced. They are clearly kind of sniffly. Yorm especially.
It's amazing that I look colder than Tim because he has been acting on camera without a coat. So
Yeah. Or a director. Whoa!
No. That's what we want. We want that. We need that.
So, everybody, this is Timothy Olyphant, who is truly one of my favorite guests on Late Night. And I'm a little heartbroken because we're text friends that he didn't give me a heads up that he was working with Yorm in Finland.
This is just news right here. Well, first of all, thank you. You know I love you. I'm a big fan of all you guys. It's good to see y'all.
You too, buddy.
Can I just say for real quick, Seth, because it's very kind of you to say that you appreciate my talk show appearances. I heard you on the thing you did with all the talk show hosts.
Strike Force 5.
Thank you. I listened to that podcast and someone brought up the subject of great guests.
Yes.
And I'm not going to lie to you. I was walking the dog listening to it. And as that subject came up, I think I said out loud, come on, Seth, come on, baby, give it to me. Come on, Seth. And boom, you go, always could count on Timothy Olyphant as a great guest, like top 5 or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I so appreciated it. And the very next moment, all I could think of is I noticed nobody chimed in. None of the other hosts. It was crickets. And they just moved on. No one's like, yeah. They're all like, oh, I guess, okay.
They're like, oh, right on.
Yeah.
By the way, if anybody wants to know what it's like to be an actor for a living, that's it in a nutshell.
It was right there.
You get praised, and then you immediately move on to, so like no one else?
No follow-ups?
No one else.
What am I now to do with the vacuum left in its wake?
Exactly right.
Oh, so now it's the arrow's pointing down the rest of my life?
Exactly.
do I praise you on as a director? So far?
Yeah, no, you're fantastic. I've told you.
Great.
No, this guy's great.
I queued him up.
Yeah.
Guys,
No.
don't worry.
Yeah. This whole thing's going great.
Well, I hope he's directing well because he certainly is shitting the bed as a podcast host.
He didn't even make last week, huh?
No, I don't think so.
We don't even know.
Yeah.
Did you guys just wrap, or are you in the middle of stuff?
No, we're on lunch break.
lunch
I
break.
actually got to go to a props meeting in a second.
Great.
So is it a full night shoot then, or is it a split? What are we talking
Yeah,
about?
well, we're going to like 1 a.m., but we'll probably end early.
That's a split. That's called a split.
Well, gentlemen,
This is
you
Twilight.
keep up the good work. Yorma's going to go to a prop meeting.
Yeah.
Thanks for dropping by the Zoo Crew.
For one brief moment, we were 5 shock jocks.
By the way, I'm so enjoying this. If I watch the podcast and I'm not on it at all, it'll be that moment again. I was like, oh, I got cut.
Well, we'll hear you. You'll be in.
You're gonna make
Yeah,
it.
you'll be in. Trust me.
Are you kidding me? A cameo? That's manna from heaven.
That's huge for us.
You're the first in-person cameo. We do voice notes. When you just logged on, you were hearing Jonah Hill.
I heard that.
But it's just a voice note.
Well, that was a voice note.
Yeah, you're the first live guest we've ever had.
And I think we're going to see a difference in the downloads, personally.
A D in the D?
I think a D in the D.
Oh, a D. Difference in the downloads.
Yeah.
DOD.
That's our shorthand.
Well, guys, we're sending our best from Finland.
All right.
All right,
so
thank
much.
you.
Pleasure.
Have fun in the Louvre.
Nice seeing you.
All right. Love you guys. I got to go.
Godspeed.
All right. See you.
Peace
Have
out,
fun
Yorm.
out there.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, hey, before we move on from Benihana, I wrote down earlier one of my favorite lines, which I know I didn't pitch it. I think it was either a Jonah line or a Bill line, but it's maybe my favorite. He talks about how he can hear his divorced dad crying when he stays at his condo for the weekend.
Please what? Please get you back together with Mom? I know that's what you want because you talk in your sleep. I'm not eavesdropping, mind you, but the walls in your condo are thinner than Shelley Duvall. I'm joking. I don't even know who that is. I'm 6.
That logic just folding in on itself.
Yeah, it's just fantastic.
That was a lovely section of the voice note.
Yeah.
I liked hearing that. Do you remember a dinner, Andy? Were you even at that? Do you think it was just the host dinner on Tuesday he's talking about?
I think it's entirely likely.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And then they went back and wrote it, maybe?
Yeah. That's what
Probably.
it seemed like.
That'd be pretty fun to think about coming up with a bit. I mean, that happens all the time, though, where you're like, what am I going to write? And then you come up with a bit right then and there and just start.
I think it's Phil Lord and Chris Miller that always talk about when people say like, where do you get your ideas? And they're like, when we're sitting in an office trying to think up ideas.
Phil Lord and Chris Miller,
Yeah.
who've come up with some really good ideas. So it's nice to know that sometimes it is just making your job coming up with them.
Yeah, you just focus.
Yeah.
You go, what would be funny?
You shut the door and torture yourself for a while as opposed to in the shower.
Before we get to the short, I want to talk about Jackie Snad and Clancy T. Bachleratt, which is one of my favorite sketches ever.
Same.
This is one of the most uniquely Wig and Forte sketches of all time. Jonah plays a music producer. Do you remember his name?
I do not.
Tim Jackal-Pappy. Every name in this is fantastic. Tim Jackal-Pappy.
Yeah.
And he talks about two of the best singers in country music. They are Clancy T. Bachleratt and Jackie Snad. And they have something in common, which is all their songs reference 4 different things, which are Model T cars, jars of beer, toddlers, and spaceships.
That's right.
We hear one song from each of them. And you know what? I don't think our listeners and mine kind of think we should play them.
Agreed.
When you think of the most influential songwriters of our time, 2 luminaries immediately spring to mind. Clancy T. Bachleratt.
Driving down the street in my Model T car, got a toddler by my side and beer in a jar. I said beer in a jar in my Model T car. I'm driving down the street with a toddler.
And Jackie Snad.
Rocket ship heading straight for the moon. I'm going into space with a toddler. It's a hell of a ride with a toddler by my side and my beer sitting here in my space jar.
So anyway, that's their solo work. And then Tim Jackal-Pappy is very excited because now they're working together. And now, again, this is one of my favorite premises of all time because you immediately get it, despite the fact that it makes no sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
But they just lay it out. They are country singers. All their songs have these 4 things. They sing about them in very unnatural ways. They're super catchy songs, though.
Yeah.
There's a song, for example, called Hey Clancy. And you know what? I think we should play it.
Agreed.
Hey Clancy, we're space.
Well, it's very, very far.
Do you think that I can get there in my Model T car?
Hang on, according to this toddler, it's actually near. You can rent his spaceship. It runs on jars of beer. We're going to space on the advice of a toddler.
There you go. Then there's a song called The Worst Day. It's one of those sad country songs. And by the way, when it starts, I remember when at the table when it starts and it's about a funeral, I was so worried. I was like, oh my God, because I feel like country songs do that thing where like sometimes they're about like a family member dying. And I knew that they were going to have to mention toddlers.
Oh, yeah.
It was a funeral for a spaceship. The toddler does. Well, you know what? Just listen to The Worst Day.
This is the worst day of my life. I buried my spaceship and my toddler gave the eulogy. The procession consisted of Model T cars and a jar of beer. Laid a rose on his grave.
And then, I do want to say something about The Worst Day. I think they cued the music early while Jonah was still talking.
Mm-hmm.
And Will and Kristen are so good that the music ends, but they still have a couplet to go.
I remember that, yeah.
And they just sing past the music because they're such pros. That's why the music stops and they're still singing.
You know what they do? They go, motherfucker beat, I'm a duet a cappella.
Then a new national anthem, and new national anthem is wonderful because it does that thing that Forte does better than anybody, which is scream, sings, and the veins are popping in his neck and his temple. And it was shot with a really fun, like that double profile move.
Yes, yes.
And even when it cuts back to Jonah, you can still hear Will screaming.
America, your fertile plain gives rise to jars of beer, and spaceships are buried in your beautiful mountains. And one day a toddler will salute you with his tiny, tiny hand and sail through the seas of freedom on a Model G car ship. America, 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 here's your new national
Clancy T. Bachleratt.
When it goes to that sort of double dissolve shot or whatever, like the cable access cross dissolve shot, and they're just screaming and the audience is laughing, I definitely remember that as one of the moments from our time at the show when we were in such a comedy soup.
Yeah.
You know, where you're just like, it transcends the sum of its parts, right? You're now just in a giddy state of psychoticness.
And one of the most fun things about it is Jonah's in a giddy state.
Oh, yeah.
The whole time.
Well, because he loved the sketch.
And again, he was both the presenter of it within the body of the sketch, but he also was sort of the presenter of it as the host of that week's SNL. And I think he took some real pride in the fact that it had made the show.
I think I even had mentioned this earlier. I know for a fact he fought for that sketch specifically, but let's see what he said.
You asked me to talk about Model Ts and toddlers. Now that one, I'm proud to say every time I've hosted all 5 times, I can sniff out the weirdo shit that the writers love that they can never get on. And I'm maybe one of the people that they knew would fight to get the weirdo shit on. And this was one of them where Lauren did not want it on the show. And I was like, please, please, please. I know I'm just like a kid and I'm hosting, but this is so awesome. I'm begging you, can we put this on? And he kind of like knew it was funny, but no, it was pretty gnarly. And then he let it on. And everyone always was really nice to me about that for many years because Will Forte and John Solomon were those kind of writers that was like everybody's favorite writers, but sometimes it's just so insane that they couldn't get it on. And I think you guys can know better than me. They tried to get this on and then I was begging for it to be on and then it was on and I couldn't keep it together. God damn, Will Forte is so funny and John Solomon. And then the version of that I did years later would be Tim and Zach. I would always get a weirdo Tim and Zach, Tim Robinson and Zach Kanan. I don't know if I'm saying his name
Cannon.
right.
Zach Cannon.
But Tim and Zach would always have those kinds of sketches that were like Will and John sketches, and I would always get them on. And later on, I think my favorite sketch ever that I ever did was one that they wrote called Boss's Dinner. Keenan's my boss. I'm going to his house for dinner, and I keep like really slightly messing up a word, and then I'll excuse myself to the restroom and then scream insane shit, but they can all hear me. And it's so dark and weird and so much what I love about Tim and Zach's humor. So that was always a mission of mine when I hosted, was to get on a weirdo ass sketch that I knew I and the writers thought were really funny that maybe, you know, a non-comedian guest wouldn't love or fight to get on or whatever.
Real quick, and I feel like we'll maybe one day talk about it with Yorma, but before we get to the short, there were also a McGruber in this Jonah. And I will say I had no memory of this McGruber. And I went back and watched it. And I think the reason I had no memory is we only aired 2 of the 3.
Oh.
And it was unsatisfying.
To only have 2 of the 3.
And it was also, I feel like, right before they figured out they had to have a bigger premise. But the premise was that Jonah had talked shit behind McGruber's back and he just heard. And then he had a bit of a crisis of confidence.
Okay, Isaac! Okay, look, I'm just gonna lay all my cards on the table here. That little birdie was my friend Brad, and he said that the person talking behind my back was you.
5 seconds,
Okay,
McGruber.
forget it. I don't care what you think anyway. Okay? And I'm very good at my job. Do you really think I'm not good at my job?
But I will say the third beat, which didn't air, I went back and watched, and it was McGruber had his life coach with him, which was Bill. And Bill was a really funny life coach, but McGruber's confidence was rattled. And Bill was being really patient with him. And he very quietly asked for a chair to defuse the bomb. And it was a very funny Will bit of just picking up a chair and using one of the legs to like gently push the bomb around. And it's funny to go back and be like, oh, 2 out of 3 McGrubers, you can't do that. That don't work.
Support comes from Fitbod. Now, Yorm, Seth was saying something the other day about how you needed to not skip leg day when you were Chaka because of all the crouching. And maybe if you had prepped a little, you wouldn't need those cortisone shots. True or false?
That's true.
What you could have used is Fitbod. If you had Fitbod, you could have customized a workout based on your goals. In this case, it would have been crouching like a monkey. You could have typed that right in there. It would have been like, do some lunges. Seth, what are some leg exercises that you think would have helped him?
Squats.
Squats, that's right. The app would have helped you stay focused, get a better workout, get an intensity of the workout. It could have tracked that for you.
Cool.
It's got some amazing features. It would have tracked your progress. Your strength and endurance would have improved. All things for being a little monkey man. Your friends and family, they would have noticed.
If we would have noticed, then we would have said something.
I think all of America would have, because so many people saw them.
I'm just going to take over. Lock in and stay focused. Join Fitbod today to get your personalized workout plan. Get 25% off your subscription or try the app free for 7 days at fitbod.me/island. That's FITBOD.me/island.
Support comes from RocketMoney, but I don't have to tell you that, Yorm.
No, you don't.
Now, just stop me if you know this already, but most Americans think they spend about $62 per month on subscriptions, but the real number is closer to $300. You didn't stop me, I noticed. So is this new?
I didn't know that, but go ahead.
Even if just a couple of subscriptions fall off your radar, those recurring payments you don't even know about can really add up. Yorm, you need to stop me if you already know this stuff.
No, I would stop you, believe me.
What's a subscription you have that you forgot about and then realized you had been just hemorrhaging cash? Just toss one out.
I'm not going to name names, but there was one that was 3 years of me paying like $20 a month. I lost a lot of money.
You really need RocketMoney.
I do.
If you did, you could say something like this next sentence. Thanks to RocketMoney, I'm no longer losing money because of subscriptions I forgot about. Wouldn't that have felt nice to say that sentence, Yorm?
Yeah, after like hundreds of dollars? Totally.
I just said the sentence. It felt great, even though for me personally, it was a lie. But for you, it was true. I'm very responsible. RocketMoney is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Stop me if this sounds like something you'd want, or stop me if...
I will.
Okay. All right. You just say, stop right there. Here we go. Here's something you could do at RocketMoney. You can easily create a personalized budget with custom categories to keep track of your spending every week, every month. See your monthly spending trends in each category to know exactly where your money is going.
Stop it.
Okay, great.
Stop it because I love it.
Okay, good. That makes sense to me. You're still the Yorm I know. If you hadn't stopped me, I'd be like, who is this guy? RocketMoney has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features.
That's a lot of money to have saved. That's pretty impressive.
Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/island. That's rocketmoney.com/island.
All right, so Andy's dad. Let's talk.
The digital short, not my actual dad, right?
Yeah, no, we are going to do a full episode on your dad, but this is
We've already hit Roy, the brother-in-law.
Yeah.
I came in with a few ideas. One was Andy's dad, where I just wanted to do like a really hard conversation with a friend about that I'm dating his dad. And from the second you guys were into it and you were down, we knew we wanted Jim Downey to play Andy's dad. That was like a big thing because I was obsessed with Jim Downey from, Billy Madison and the Coin Bank and all that stuff, and just a legend. And it just happened really fast. We all wrote it and it was so fun. And honestly, it was amazing, except I had to tongue kiss Jim Downey, which was not had to, but just I can still like right now sense memory ghost understand how what his tongue felt like. And then we shot it and it was so fun and funny, and me and Akiva went around and shot like Annie Hall kind of stuff around New York with me and Jim Downey. That was a blast, and it was funny, and I loved watching it on the floor with you guys and watching it kind of do really well, and the kiss got a huge reaction, I remember. Anyway, best memories ever. I love you guys. I swear to God, I think Lonely Island is like the greatest art group of all time.
Art group is a nice way to put it.
Fuck, man. And the episode you guys did on this podcast about, I already sent you a voice note that you just had nothing to do with me, but Roy rules. I think Roy rules is the funniest thing. And then one last story in case you want it. After Akiva and Yorma left, Andy, the last time I hosted when Andy and Wig and Hater and all them were there, we were like, we're going to do a digital short, but we didn't have any ideas. And I think they wanted us to do a digital short, but you guys were gone. And then me and Andy were like, we have nothing. And we were just in the office on YouTube. And we saw this video of a guy deliberately getting hit in the nuts with a practice tennis ball machine. And we made a digital short that is just us getting hit in the premise is, I think, us just getting hit in the nuts over and over again with a tennis ball machine, which I haven't watched and maybe I'll rewatch now. Anyway, I love you guys. I wish we were young and being stupid again. And I fucking love this podcast. I'm so the direct audience. And fuck yeah. Love you guys, man. And Seth, love you, dude. Thanks for all the memories.
I'm very glad he mentioned the getting hit in the balls, because obviously we're going to get to that. And that's one I rewatch a lot.
Love you too, Jonah. Just to wrap up that note, love you too, Jonah. Thank you for sending that in.
Yeah, we love you too.
Yeah, I love you, buddy. Thanks for sending that in.
That was awesome.
So lovely to hear.
There you go.
I didn't remember that it was Jonah's idea.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I mean, the thing that he points out in that is my favorite thing upon rewatching it is the tone of it, which is decidedly Annie Hall.
Yeah.
Keeve, you did a really great job, and obviously it seems like Jonah wanted it this way, and you guys conjured it that way together. But the light touch on it and the sort of, even with the cameras we were working with, this cinematic feeling to it and the music choice and the way it all kind of flowed really put me at ease. Also, it's just so rare on SNL to see a conversation scene with such deliberate pace to it.
Yeah.
Which was very much how he had originally pitched it.
It's okay not getting laughs in the beginning. It's not even trying for them.
Yes.
It's setting the thing in a very nice, as you say, deliberate way.
It's completely in control of what it wants to be.
But it also feels like a movie you want to watch.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It feels like a movie. And I immediately felt very much put at ease. Also because Jonah's a great actor. So you're like, I'm watching Jonah in a movie.
He's great in this scene. And it's really funny because he basically says, like, can I talk to you? You're in wardrobe. You guys sit down. You're both really great. There's some really nice flashbacks. He talks about meeting your family. And it's really funny because it's a mom, a sister, and Jim Downey is your dad.
Mm-hmm.
So you remember when I met your family last week at the show?
Oh, yeah. They actually loved you. My mom thought you were hilarious.
Yeah. Well, there's actually kind of an issue with that.
Like, what kind of issue?
Well, since then, I've sort of been seeing your dad. What's that? And yeah, I've been dating your dad.
I remember Jonah, I'm surprised he didn't say it in the voice note, but maybe I'm remembering wrong. I remember him coming in and saying he had a dream, that this short came to him in a dream. I don't know if he literally saw part of the short in the dream or a dream that he really was dating your dad, or in the dream thought of a sketch idea. But I remember him saying he had dreamed this, like literally as a dream.
Dude, that fucking rules if it's true.
But I will say this, because this is about a relationship between two men, ultimately, I went into this being concerned that it would age badly. And I think because the joke is not about that, the joke is about dating a parent and about a hard conversation.
Yes.
Because of all the things you just said of how we did it, I think it still holds up.
Yeah, there are a lot of turns in it that made me laugh still a lot.
Yeah.
I think that a really wonderful choice of words is Jonah telling you it's become extraordinarily physical.
To put you at ease.
Also, there's a really... He takes a sip of coffee and he goes, I'm not usually a coffee guy. Ben has me trying so many new things.
Yeah, all kinds of new stuff.
I believe that's after the kiss. So, like, the fact that he thinks you will find that interesting.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I do remember the writing process, and I remember, not surprisingly, Jonah was, like, in the zone on it.
Yeah.
Like, we were just kind of riffing out the scene, and he just kept sang the jokes, and then we would just write them down.
Agreed.
For the most part, yeah.
All those little jokes like that are just so nuanced and perfectly Jonah and perfectly like needling the situation is definitely all Jonah.
Yeah.
Also, we talk about the patience of the sketch. One of the most patient performers of all time is Jim Downey.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Downey is never in a rush. And I think that's why so much of what he does endures. Jim Downey, if you don't know, the most recent great Jim Downey thing is on Conan O'Brien's podcast.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
He does not know about Jeffrey Epstein and what has happened. And he keeps referring to him as the financier.
Yeah. Jeff Epstein?
The financier?
The financier?
And Downey writes patient and performs patient. And of course, he's the teacher in, what would you call him? He's running.
Yeah, the academic triathlon at the end of Billy Madison. He's the one that's like, we're all dumber for having listened to what you just said or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was a writer on SNL since season 2, I think.
Season 2.
Like came in with Bill Murray.
Oh my God.
And, you know, over the years, I wrote things with him and it felt like a MC Escher painting because I realized I learned so much about sketch comedy writing from watching sketches he had written when I was growing up.
Yes.
And then, you know, end up being with him. But it's also perfect casting because he is so, even the moments where he and Jonah sort of look at each other.
Yes.
No one ever reaches for like anything lecherous, anything.
No, the meet cute stuff all really plays. And that's sort of what I was saying before too, Keith, about the way you directed and cut it. Like it feels lovely.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you know in the story that it's my father, but like it's working and is funny on that level because you are selling that this spark between them is actually happening, and it just feels very real and lovely.
Jonah says he's aware that this is a difficult conversation.
I know this is tough, but even if I lose a friend over this, I like to think that I gained a son.
Okay. Uh-oh. Here's my guys.
I like to think
I gained a son. You're super bummed by that.
So bummed.
The outro is real memorable.
Oh my God. It did make me laugh.
It made me laugh too. Do you remember who came up with the outro?
You're talking about the very final, the text on screen?
Well, everything. I mean, so first then Jim Downey comes in, and he wants to tell you, and Jonah lets him know that he's already told you.
Yes.
And then Bill enters.
Jonah and I are dating. I'm sorry. I told him already.
Blabbermouth.
I know, I'm the worst.
Hey, Ben, way to go. Andy, Jonah, how do you guys know Ben?
He's my dad.
Small world. We've been f***ing.
And then he turns to camera.
Freeze frame.
And we get a graphic of text created by Lorne Michaels.
Why in the world?
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I will say, Downey's involvement, I think, hamstrings Lorne a little bit in a great way. Because, you know, he's known Downey since season 2. Downey's obviously blessed this thing with his involvement. It plays super hot. And then even I think Lorne has to be like, all right, you guys got me.
I've seen a recent Jim Downey performance that you guys haven't seen yet that's very good, and it's coming. This is a plug for something probably a year away.
Oh.
But he acts in Tim and Zach's HBO pilot that has been picked up that they are writing episodes of now, but in the first episode that they have shot of a show called The Chair Company.
Fantastic.
But he's in it, and he's very good.
He's always great. It always pays to put Downey in.
Yeah. Also, Tim sent me a photo of Downey with him on set. And the other great thing about Downey is he's both great on camera, and he also maybe has like the best 100 stories about SNL.
Yeah.
And is so funny talking about sketches of his that he wrote that bombed. Because he wrote some really funny things that didn't work.
We should get him to do one voice note about a bombed sketch.
We should, if we can get Downey to explain the O.J. Simpson detective agency.
Oh, wow.
Okay, great.
Yes, please.
Is it Criterion, this guy? I mean, this and The Mirror were the two of this golden run you kept talking about. It ends so strong with The Mirror and this.
Oh, no, Hero Song. Don't overlook Hero
Hero.
Song.
I jumped right past Hero Song. You're right.
But I will say, like, the point I was trying to make, you guys do 4 in a row where it's never, this is a catchy, good song. Because like Hero Song, the song is just set up.
We did not put it on our album.
Right, of course. You would never. And so I just, like, for me, it was you guys came out of the strike. You had a lot of creativity. You didn't fall back on any of your crutches. And I was delighted.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I always do like seeing the trying things That always was exciting for us. We always tried to really make a point of like, let's just try something different. If it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. But we would get bored of ourselves, I think, before anyone else would.
I remember I would talk to Lauren about like the Schiller films and the Gary Weiss films. And I know we've talked about it on here in the beginning a little bit, but like, I know we talked about, there was one where it was just people hugging at the airport. It was literally what they, I'll say it, ripped off for the beginning of Love Actually, where it's just people hugging at an airport for the opening credits. And there was the one where he filmed a ballet, but put it to hip hop music, or they did it to hip hop music.
Swan Lake.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's in the 70s. It's like something somebody would mash up on TikTok now.
It's so rad. Yeah. It's cool.
And they weren't going for laughs at all. They were just short films to be interesting, the same way that the musical guest isn't going for laughs. And he would talk about like, well, it is a variety show. And so I remember sometimes us like being like, we don't need to, this is in the future, but like Cherry Battle was one I remember where we went, I don't even know if this is funny. It's just conceptual and that's okay.
Yeah, we'll get to Cherry Battle.
Yeah. Or the Neil Patrick Harris one where he's playing the Doogie Howser theme, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
These aren't spoilers. These came out like 20 years ago.
If anything, they're like teases for upcoming podcast episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Teases for things 15 years old. But I do remember there was something I liked about, I mean, Andy punching people for eating's experimental too, about the ones that didn't fit into any category you could place.
One thing I do want to say, we've talked about the thrill of new people who then become part of the SNL family. Jonah was very much that. Things we didn't mention in this show, there was a Target lady, which was fantastic. Wig used to do a fantastic Susie Orman. That was in the show. And cut from this show was one of my favorite cut sketches ever, which only exists to watch as a second chance theater, which was Sudeikis' juggling flyer sketch.
Oh, funny.
Which he tries so many times.
Yes.
The premise of juggling flyer was Sudeikis, as a guy, walked into a coffee shop wearing a T-shirt that said, "Ask me about juggling," suspenders, and he went over to his flyer, which was basically free juggling lessons, and went person to person in the coffee shop and asked why they weren't interested in that. And it was never gonna work.
It sounds a lot like Andy's cut, like Want to Come With.
It turns out that the audience doesn't love a sketch where it's just a person
Pestering
getting no's.
Yeah, one person who's just desperate.
It's surf meeting too.
Surf meeting.
Yeah.
And it's always funny to us, and it always is a tough sell in that studio.
Well, it also was the tour de force performance by Suds. Like, there was a lot of moves in it as a guy getting a no on juggling lessons. All right, guys, I'm very excited. I'm going to tease the next episode.
Please do.
Walking.
Ooh.
And as great as it is to get a first timer like Jonah, it's thrilling to get one of the classic hosts to interact with a different cast. And I'm going to say it, we landed the plane. It was a great episode. There's a lot of fun things to talk about.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to have that conversation with you guys. All right. I love you both very much.
Love you too.
And you both.
Bye.
Bye.